The rain had just begun when Ethan Cole, a self-made millionaire known for his steel-cold heart, stepped into St. Helena's Hospital. It was supposed to be a simple inspection. His company was funding a new children's wing, but destiny had other plans. The air felt heavier that morning, as if the past itself waited behind those white walls. As he walked past the nursery window, his eyes caught a reflection, not in the glass, but in time. A woman in a nurse's uniform, with the same calm grace that once filled his home, stood rocking a child. Her name escaped his lips in a trembling whisper.
Clara.
She turned, and their eyes met for the first time in 5 long years. The color drained from Ethan's face. His pulse raced faster than the monitors around them. He wanted to speak, but words felt too small to carry the storm inside him. The child in her arms, maybe 2 years old, had his same eyes. Blue, familiar, unmistakable. Ethan. Clara's voice cracked, caught between shock and disbelief. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same," he managed, forcing a thin smile that fooled no one. Before she could answer, a nurse called her away, leaving Ethan frozen in silence. Questions screamed in his mind, but none louder than one. Had he just met the son he never knew existed? Ethan could not sleep that night. The hospital corridors replayed in his head like a haunting film. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Clara's trembling smile, and that little boy's blue eyes staring back at him. He had spent years building skyscrapers, yet one unexpected meeting had shaken the empire within him. The next morning, he returned to the hospital under the pretense of checking construction plans. But truthfully, his heart dragged him there. As he passed the reception, he heard laughter from the children's ward. It was her voice again, gentle, healing, familiar. Clara stood by a small hospital bed, feeding a child with patience and love. When she saw Ethan, her smile faded. The silence between them was louder than words. "You should not be here," she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, his voice unsteady. "I need to know the truth. Is that boy mine?" Clara turned away, blinking back tears. "His name is Noah," she said softly. "He is a patient here, abandoned at birth. I took care of him when no one else would." Her words should have brought relief, but they only deepened his confusion. He saw how Noah clung to her, how she smiled through exhaustion, the kind of love no business deal could buy. "You still have that fire," Ethan murmured. "You still care when the world forgets." Clara met his gaze, her eyes full of quiet hurt. "Some of us never stopped caring, Ethan. Some of us just stopped waiting." The next few days felt like a silent war inside Ethan's heart. Every meeting, every signature, every polished word felt hollow compared to the pull of that small ward and the soft voice that once called him hers. He told himself it was curiosity, but deep down, he knew it was guilt that had been waiting for a chance to breathe. On the 3rd evening, he found himself again at the hospital, carrying a donation file that he did not really need to deliver himself. Clara was in the garden behind the maternity unit, sitting under a flickering lamp, her shoulders wrapped in a thin shawl. She looked peaceful until she saw him. "Do you ever stop showing up where you are not needed?" she asked gently. Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I am trying to remember what being needed feels like." Clara hesitated, caught between anger and the ache of old memories. "You walked away, Ethan. You chose walls and wealth over us." He lowered his gaze. "And I have been paying for that choice ever since." For a moment neither spoke. The sound of distant thunder filled the silence. Then Ethan noticed something. A small bracelet on Clara's wrist, engraved with a name. Noah Cole. His chest tightened. "Why my last name?" he whispered. Clara's voice trembled. "Because he reminded me of the man I hoped you would become, not the one who left." Ethan's breath caught. The world seemed to tilt. If Noah was not his by blood, why did he feel a bond stronger than DNA itself? Something inside him knew. His story with Clara was not over. It had just begun again. Ethan's life began to unravel quietly, piece by piece. He started missing board meetings, ignoring calls from investors, and spending hours outside the pediatric ward. The staff whispered about the man in the expensive suit who sat by a child's bedside every evening, reading stories like a father who had lost time to make up for. Noah, with his curious smile and innocent questions, had carved a place in Ethan's heart that no empire could fill. Yet Clara remained guarded, distant, as though she feared hope more than heartbreak. One afternoon, while helping Noah draw, Ethan noticed a worn envelope tucked inside the boy's small backpack. The handwriting on it was familiar, Clara's. When she walked in, he held it up. "I was not looking through his things, but this is your handwriting." She froze, her face pale. "It is a letter for social services," she said softly. "Noah's adoption is being finalized. He will leave soon." The words felt like glass in Ethan's chest. "You're letting him go?" he asked in disbelief. "He deserves a family," she whispered. "Not a broken one built on memories." Ethan's eyes filled with something he had long forgotten. Desperation. "Then let me be that family," he said, his voice trembling. "You, me, him. We can start again." Clara turned away, tears glistening under the hospital lights. "You can't fix the past by borrowing from the present, Ethan." He took a step closer. "No, but I can make the present something worth remembering." Her silence said everything. She wanted to believe him, but fear was stronger than faith. Outside, rain began to fall again, as if the sky itself could not decide whether to let go or to hold on. Days passed, and Ethan's persistence grew into quiet devotion. He began volunteering at the hospital's children's fund, attending every event Clara organized, never forcing words but always showing up when she least expected. The nurses started noticing the change. The man once known for his stone heart now smiled at children, carried boxes of donations, and read bedtime stories in the NICU. Clara tried to ignore him, but her heart betrayed her every time she saw Noah's laughter mirrored in Ethan's eyes. One morning, Dr. Hale, the head of the hospital, called Clara into her office. "There's been a change," she said kindly. "The family meant to adopt Noah backed out. The process is delayed again." Clara's voice trembled. "Then what happens to him?" Dr. Hale sighed. "He needs a home, maybe. One closer than you think." That evening, Clara found Ethan in the hospital garden again, a stack of papers beside him. "You applied for adoption?" she asked, shocked. Ethan looked up, his voice steady. "Yes. If the world thinks I only know how to build towers, let them see I can build a family too." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Why now, Ethan?" He smiled faintly. "Because for the first time, I see something worth building that doesn't reach the sky, only the heart." She looked at him, torn between trust and pain. "It's not that easy. You can't erase what happened." Ethan stood and took her hand gently. "I'm not trying to erase it, Clara. I'm trying to heal it." As thunder echoed above, their eyes met, not as strangers haunted by the past, but as two souls standing at the edge of a second chance. The only question left was whether she would let herself fall again, this time into forgiveness. The court hearing day arrived like the calm before a storm. Ethan sat in the small room, dressed simply, no expensive suit, no polished shoes. Just a man stripped of pride, waiting for a verdict that could redefine his life. Clara sat across from him, holding Noah close. The boy's tiny hand rested on hers, unaware of the emotions swirling around him. The judge spoke gently, asking questions about Ethan's readiness to adopt, his motives, his past. Each answer came not from rehearsed words, but from truth carved by regret. "I spent years chasing success," Ethan said, his voice unshaken. "But it took losing everything to realize that love is the only investment that never fails." Clara's eyes glistened. It was the first time she saw the man she once loved, speaking with his heart, not his ego. When the judge asked Clara for her thoughts, the room fell silent. She looked at Noah, then at Ethan. "People can change," she began, her voice trembling. "Ethan was once afraid of love, but I've seen what love turned him into. He shows up, he listens, and he stays. That's more than most people ever do." The judge nodded slowly before signing the papers. Ethan closed his eyes, overwhelmed. Noah was no longer just a child he cared for. He was now officially his son. Outside the courthouse, the three stood under the soft drizzle. Clara smiled faintly as Noah held both their hands. "So what now?" she asked quietly. Ethan looked at her, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "Now," he said, "we start again. Not as strangers, not as ghosts, but as the family we were always meant to be." And for the first time in years, Clara leaned into him, finding peace where pain once lived. It was not a fairy tale ending. It was something rarer. It was real.